Hello, we are also live on YouTube.
Okay, great. Welcome everyone. We're just opening the doors and allowing folks to come on in. Folks, come on in.
All right.
We are asking everyone to mute themselves. And Derek, if you can please read this slide, that'd be great.
Certainly, thank you. Welcome everyone. I'm Derek Wolfgram. I'm the library director for Redwood City Public Library and the member of the Community Advisory Board for the San Mateo County Pride Center. My pronouns are he, him. And for those who may not be able to read the screen, I'm just going to give an audio of what we have on right now, and then we'll get started with the formal program. So what is Transgender Day of Remembrance? Transgender Day of Remembrance was founded in 1999 by Gwendolyn Ann Smith, a transgender woman, to memorialize the murder of transgender woman Rita Hester in Allston, Massachusetts. Since its inception, Transgender Day of Remembrance has been held annually on November 20th and has slowly evolved from the web-based project started by Smith into an international day of action. The number of reported cases of anti-transgender hate crimes has more than doubled since 1999. In the past decade, more than one person per month has died as a result of transgender-based hate or prejudice. And in the past year, it's been almost 4 people per month in the United States. It's clear that fatal violence disproportionately affects transgender women of color, and that the intersections of racism, sexism, homophobia, and transphobia conspire to deprive them of employment, housing, healthcare, and other necessities, barriers that make them vulnerable. The transgender flag, which is the background of this slide, represents the transgender community. The blue represents men, the pink represents women, and the white is for those who are transitioning, genderqueer, or non-binary.
Thank you, Derek, for the reading of Transgender Day of Remembrance and its significance. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Transgender Day of Remembrance 2021 event. We thank you for being here in this space and sharing this space with us. We thank you for coming to bring yourselves to be in support, in allyship, and in community with us all. As we prepare for this program, we have a very packed program, and we just want to make sure that everyone is aware of that, and as we're going to try to get us all through it. My name is Dana Johnson. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am an LGBTQ Commissioner Co-Chair and a co-chair of the Pride Initiative for the County of San Mateo. I'm also your MC for the Transgender Day of Remembrance 2021 event this evening. I am now going to prepare us for our land acknowledgement. We want to acknowledge that we gather in San Mateo County on the traditional land of the Ohlone peoples, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout and the generations. We honor and respect the Ohlone people's long history here that reaches beyond European colonization. We honor and respect the indigenous people who lived and continue to live upon this territory. and whose practices and spiritualities are tied to the land and its other inhabitants today. Thank you for hearing and adhering to the land acknowledgement as well as the welcoming of me in this event. I'm going to now go over briefly what our program is going to look like. As you see on the screen, the program started with a welcome and a land acknowledgement by me, the MC, Dana Johnson. Where now, next part we will go on to would be the agenda, acknowledgements, and our reminders. The next part after that, we will have an intention by Bishop Megan Rohr. Following that, reading of the names of our transgender community members that has lost their lives for 2021. Following that, we'll have a poetry reading by Dana Rod and Hillary Cruz. We'll then move on into our panel by Anjali Remy, Blossom Brown, and Sarah Fernando. We'll then go on to our community poetry spoken word area that will be facilitated by our San Mateo County Poet Laureate, Eileen Casaneto. And then I will be thanking you and I will be sharing with you a nice evening to continue on for your day with our closing. This event is being brought to you by a collaboration of community partners. The community came together to come with this event to fight for resilience and to bring a call to action. Thanks to our community partners of San Mateo County LGBTQ Commission, San Mateo County Pride Center, San Mateo County Pride Initiative, Evergreen Giving Tree, San Mateo County Poet Laureate, Island United Church of Foster City, Community Overcoming Relationships Abuse, also known as CORA, Adolescent Counseling Services Outlet, Redwood City Public Library, San Mateo County Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, and San Mateo County Office of Diversity and Equity. We again thank the collaborating community partners that are bringing this event to you tonight to be in this space. I now would like to go on to creating an intention and respect. As we all know, this is a very emotional for some and a very impactful and uplifting and trying to come in action to put a stop to these vicious and anti-transgender violence. And so we just would like to ask for creating intention and respect of this space. Please keep yourself on mute. Presenters, unmute yourselves when it is your time to speak. Respect everyone, both participants and presenters. The live stream is on Redwood City Public Library YouTube channel. It includes closed captions, and you see there the YouTube channel listing. If you feel free, please go ahead and you can view from there. I also would like to say good evening to our viewers that are on the Redwood City Public Library channel at this moment. Thank you for joining us. Having your video on is optional. If you do not want to be a part of the live stream or screenshots, please turn off your camera. We have support counselors available during this program. If at any time you feel like you may need some additional support, if there's anything that may be triggering throughout this program, please contact our counseling support team. During the event, they will be available, and you could call either Zachary Campos or Jenna Robinson. Their numbers are listed here. Please, if you do need the support, feel free to write the numbers down at this time. And if not, you can also send an individual chat in our chat, an individual message to a Tanya Beat that could also provide you with these numbers for your support. I would now like to transition our program until our next slide with Bishop Megan Rohr and a video. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Reverend Dr. Megan Rohr, who is a bishop of the Sierra Pacific Synod, ELCA, the first openly transgender bishop in a major Christian denomination. Megan is an award-winning filmmaker, musician, and historian. Megan was a finalist for the Lambda Literary Award, received an honorable mention as an unsung hero of compassion by Wisdom in Action with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and has been featured on Queer Eye, Cosmo, People, and in Wittenberg, Germany for the 500th anniversary of the Reformation. Welcome, Bishop Megan.
Thank you so much. And welcome to everyone who is participating in today's remembrance. I want to invite you to bring your fullest self to this space. Bring the fullness of your bodily history, of your family history, of the ancestors and the mentors who have inspired you. If there is a creative sense that is beyond you, or a faith tradition that you bring with you, bring it fully into this space. And that might include bringing with you the wounds and the scars that you hold in places where you have been injured, intentionally or on accident, the places where you have injured yourself by what you have done or left undone, and the places where you just have lament or remorse that the world isn't quite where we would like it to be yet. During our time together, my hope is that you will know that you are safe right now. And even though we're talking about hard topics, some that might bring up fears for our future, that right now in this space, we get to be fully ourselves. We get to be present as much as we can, and we get to be in community with each other, all of us holding this time together. And my hope also is to share with you that if you have only imagined the worst about what might be possible for you, that having there be a transgender bishop in the world will stretch your imagination, so that in moments when folk might have limited their imagination of what's possible for trans folk in this world, you can remember where back in your brain all of the amazing people who have had strange and wonderful uniforms, people who are stepping into military service, people who are first responders, people who are delivering the mail, people who are serving as faithful bishops, so that you know that we can do what's hard because trans folk and all folk are stretching the limits of what is possible and where joy and hope can live. Thank you for being a part of that joy and that hope.
Thank you for that message from Bishop Megan Rohr. We'll now like to transition the program on to the next agenda item with the reading of our names. Again, at any time, if you do need any counseling support, please reach out to Zachary Comptos or Jenna Robinson. We'll now prepare the video.
Tiani Alexander, 28. Samuel Edmund Damian Valentine, age unknown. Bianca Muffin Banks, age unknown. Dominique Jackson, 30.
Fifty Bands, 21. Alexis Braxton, 45. Alexander Blake Van Dolson, 21. China Khalil, 24.
Jeffrey J.J. Bright, age 16. Jasmine Kennedy, age 22. Jenna Franks, age 34. Diamond Kyrie Sanders, age 23. Rayana Pardo, age 26.
Adeline Evans, age 24. Jada Peterson, age 29. Dominique Lucius, age 26. Remy Fennell, age 28. Tyra Banks, age 24.
Natalia Smut, age 24. Iris Santos, age 22. Tiffany Thomas, age 38. Carrie Washington, age 49.
Jahaira De Alto, age 42. Thomas Harden, age 35. Whispering Wind Bear Spirit, age 41. Sophie Vasquez, age 36. Danica Danny Henson, age 31.
Serenity Hollis, age 24. Oliver Ollie Taylor, age 17. Poe Black, age 21. Casey Wilson, age unknown.
Tierra Marie Lewis, 36. E.J. Boykin, 23. Taya Ashton, 20. Shai Vanderpump, 23.
Coco Chanel Wortham, age 44. Sue Johnson, age 25. Joya Zoe Rose Martinez, age 20. Josiah Monet, age 32. Brianna Hamilton, age 25.
Pierre Laprie Cartier, age 21. Royal Poetical Stars, age 26. Mel Groves, age 25. Kiva Scatter, age 34. Jesse Hart, age 42.
Joe Acker, age 26. Ricky Altamura, age 39. Jenny De Leon, age 25. Markeisha Lawrence, age 28.
That was the reading of the names. We thank everyone for the patience that they had during that. That was 46 names that is 46 names that we actually have that is notated. As we all know, there may be others out there that just wasn't documented. So we do thank you for your patience through that. And I do want to again say if there were at any time is anyone feeling the need for any type of a support, if that was a trigger, and then there is a need for counseling support. Again, we have our counseling support counselors, Zachary Comtos and Jenna Robinson. That is their numbers there. Please feel free to contact them at this moment. And as we try to go on our agenda, I'm going to actually ask if we can just maybe bring in for a quick moment of silence just to bring us back into the event this evening. Thank you. Thank you again for holding that up, this space for us, for us trying to be uplifted in community here during these times. And again, if you do need that support, it is available for you. I'm going to now prepare us to go on with our agenda if everyone's okay with that. Moving on in our agenda, we are now going to bring our poets to the space. I'm going to first start with poet Dana Rod, and I'll read a short bio regarding Dana. Dana Rod is a queer Iranian American poet and essayist who focuses on illuminating their disparate experiences. Described by the bold italic as a verbose advocate, they've been widely published in literary journals and anthologies such as The Rumpus, My Shadow is My Skin, Voices from the Iranian Dysphoria, and Butterpress. In 2020, they debuted the chapbook Swallow, a beginning, and toured with Radar production Sisters Spit. Scattered Artists in their first poetry collection. If you are looking to connect with Dana on Twitter or Instagram, the pen handle is a light in grad. Again, a light in grad. Or you can reach them at their website, danarod.com. That's DENAROD.com. I'll now transition the space over to Dana. Thank you.
Thank you. I wrote this poem for today. It's called Remembrance. My mother asks, Sinat amar kardi? Did you get surgery on your chest? And I know what she is really asking is why. Because she can tell what shapes are not there anymore. And I have to ask, what will this answer bring you? What does awareness bring us? What will the answer to this question bring me besides more scrutiny? For it's what my bones have written on them, etched in the womb. Every year, our names get longer and lives' cords are cut shorter, killed by those who love yet fear us, despite trying to be someone who you want to know. But are you waiting to know us? I could say, wait for it. It'll be worth it. But fear asks, will you care? If I'm not performing the body of queer trauma, of what was done to this body, of what I am besides feeding tongues and hungry mouths, and yet I am so hungry for what you have. For sharp planes eschewing softness that traverses my body, my leaves unfurling. How does the space my body take become a lie? I could answer, I feel like I have done everything you have asked of me within reason, folded myself into a cornerless thing, no sharp edges to bump against to harm yourself. And yet it's still not enough because the way I am is abrasive to your sense of self. I guess that's why we don't talk. But would you say that it's me, I'm the problem, that I need to predict the rules of what runs this household changing on a dime, with truth becoming something malleable, fluid to what suited you best, and myself a tribute, offering on the altar of what rotted there, my rot, the problem, my rot resulting from lack, so much lack, where there was nothing to enter but fester. I'm trying to be someone who you want to know, but I don't need to be, because we are divine, our blood sacred, and that's why you want to drink it so badly. Are you aware? I think you are. With each body slain. And my mother asks, Sinata Amal Kardi, did you get surgery on your chest? And I know what she's really asking is, how could you? How could you do that to me? Go fund yourself. Wake up, get my phone, which draws me like the moon. It's a dangerous new day as I scroll through each story, flashing a desire to leave consciousness. We witness cries through this portal every day. Hearts to heads that cry for funds to push our evolutions, which breed disquiet for others who do not understand. But we refuse to bend, push each moment against moonlight without it watering down our features. You didn't know the sparkling bits of us until you sank low to the ground, thought us artifice until our corpses proved to you how real we were, are, still are, have been. Under your fingers, you felt the house music smashing the disco ball to the ground. Look down and see the broken car windshield glass mixed with dirt, humbly crossed wet fear, dripping like a newborn miracle. I know my tongue rusted against time, but cool liquid loosened me. You can hear me now. Thank you. My name is Danarat.
Thank you, Dana. I'm going to turn things over to Dana now. Dana?
Thank you, Dana, for those wonderful, powerful selection. I'm going to now move on in our agenda as we bring up our next poet, Hilary Cruz Mejia. Hilary Cruz Mejia, pronouns of she, her, ella, is a Latinx poet and activist from the coastal waters, Guatemala. Her works has appeared in My Golzine, an imprint of Palamo Press, Portside Magazine, and in the Lesbians Are Miracles magazine. Hilary transitioned to the US as a lesbian, immigrant, and first-generational college student, has been presented in her poetry, where she hopes to encourage her readers to preserve the indigenous roots of the lands that were stolen. Outside of writing, she spends time baking bagels and keeping on track with her homework. Hilary, thank you for being here in our space. Please provide your selections. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for this event that is so much needed for our trans siblings, sisters. I'm a little bit nervous, so my apologies from now. So I'm gonna start with my poems. if you allow me, I'm gonna share my poems in Spanish and in English. The first one, it's called Para el amor, para vos. Cuando condicionamos el amor a convertirse en un sentimiento escéptico, puede que ya no nos pertenezca. Cuando permitimos el amor convertirse en un sentimiento que puede existir, no será más algo simple. Puede convertirse en tan verde como la selva que forman los pulmones de nuestra madre tierra. Puede convertirse en tan púrpura como el misterio que mantiene unido nuestro universo. Puede convertirse en tan anaranjado como la diosa del sol maya, creando vida y convirtiéndonos en el centro de aquello, de lo que ya no podemos alejarnos, nosotros mismos. To love, to you. We condition love to become an skeptical feeling. We may no longer be us. When we allow love to become a feeling that can exist, it won't be longer be plain. It may become as green as the rainforest of the lungs of Mother Earth. It may become as purple as the mystery that holds our universe together. It may become as orange as the goddess of the Mayan sun, creating life and becoming the center of what we can no longer stay away from ourselves. When we stop conditional love, we then can hold our hands in ourselves. This is a small piece of a short story that I wrote in a poem that I'm trying to create, and it's called The End of Something. How do we tell mom and dad who we are? The how begins the question that we must first answer to ourselves. Perhaps we can take ourselves on a walk, observe how kind a kid roams around in the park with a dog that is not theirs. It's somebody else's dog. A girl that is carefully looking at the grass and thinking, how does it grow? How do we tell our friends who we are? The who ends a question that we can only answer to ourselves. Perhaps an answer that will change, like the love we feel for bodies that change when our body changes también. And now is the times that my isolated mind is taking me to the moments when my mother, my grandmother, cut my hair. The days where small waves were being formed in her hands while she was mixing la masa para las tortillas del almuerzo, to the greasy and fresh coconut and pineapple smell of mid-November in our small Pacific town. Her deep brown eyes reflected the sadness and harmony of her heart, the imagination in her hands, the dresses she once wore for me when I was young, those dresses that I no longer want. And the stupid ideas that all those metal coloring men brought to our lands. The idea that a woman with a woman doesn't work, that a man with a man doesn't work, that there is only one God that I should worship, that there is only one self that I can be. And there again, there's too much pain. And I am starting to remember again, and I can feel in my veins the laughter and the desire to reveal my spotted claws and my soft and kind fur, to let my serpent tongue speak and shout out the cold that is running to my bones for recognizing who I used to be, that I am already here with a hair that used to be long and now has become a negro azabache that makes me look like a boy that I am not. Thank you.
Thank you for the poetry selections, Hillary. And thank you again, Dana. We're gonna now prepare to transition to the next part of our agenda as we prepare for our panel. This evening, we have three powerful community leaders that I have the honor to moderate in a panel, all bringing resilience and call to action, all bringing the advocacy work and the leadership that they are doing within our trans community. I am going to provide each of these panelists an opportunity to go ahead and share their bios with you. As we know, they've all done some powerful and amazing work in the community. The first panelist that I would like to bring to you is Anjali Remy. Anjali, please provide your pronouns and just give a bio of the services and the work that you're doing in community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana, and namaste and good evening to everybody. I'm simply honored to be here, and thank you for the touching rendering of our trans siblings that we've lost. My name is Anjali Remy, pronouns she, her, they, them. I am a proud South Asian trans woman that lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I am with Parivar Bay Area, the only trans-centering, trans-led South Asian queer organization in America that fights for trans economic justice, social inclusivity, and healthcare equity. Our programs are based on our strategic pillars of advocacy through arts, community building, and global disaster relief. And I also exist in uncharted territories of the for-profit world, in business development, in the wine industry. And it is my honor to be inspired every single day by trans leaders, Black trans leaders who have paved the path for me to exist. As an immigrant, as a stranger from a different shore in America, transcending boundaries and gender identities. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali. Thank you for the work you're doing in community. The next panelist that I will give a chance to share their bio is Blossom Brown. Blossom, please provide your pronouns and your bio for the space.
Thank you so much. I am super humbled to be here in this space. I am Coach Blossom C. Brown. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am an actress, producer, activist, inspirational speaker, professional tarot reader, astrologer, numerologist, and life coach. Originally from the birthplace of blues in Mississippi, now living here in Los Angeles, California. A lot of people may know me for disrupting the scene in LGBTQ town hall with Don Lemon. I work in the HIV field, being able to provide our community pre-exposure prophylaxis. That is my 8 to 5 job, which I love to do. And I am just super, super humbled and super grateful to be able to be here in this abundant space. Thank you.
Thank you, Blossom, for sharing your bio and your advocacy and the work you're doing in community. The last panelist that I would like to bring to the space is Sarah Fernando. Sarah, please provide your pronouns and tell us about your bio.
Yeah, hey folks. My name is Sarah. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a senior management analyst at the Office of LGBTQ Affairs in charge of transgender programming and policy. I'm also the chief diversity officer for Silicon Valley Pride, and I also work we're at HRC as a board of governor for the San Francisco Bay Area. My work is within transgender intersectionality and social justice. And I'm really just humbled to be able to share space with such divinity on this panel. So pleasure to be here and honored to be able to share my story and give some recommendations.
Thank you, Sarah, for your advocacy and the work that you are doing in community. And again, thank you to all three of our panelists. It's an honor to be able to moderate this space and have you here and share this space with you. As a gender non-binary person myself, it's really an honor. So thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and bring this space to you all. We are here to get some resilience and action and get some assistance on community work that we are doing and how we can uplift our community, especially our trans and non-binary community. So I'm going to go ahead and get into our questions. And our first question here that I'm going to ask Blossom if Blossom can please provide their input on this question. And I also want to let the other panelists know that if by any time I'm just reading these questions and I just provide it to one person, but it's like, no, Dana, we really want to uplift community and share some input too, feel free just to unmute, do like a hand raise. You don't have to do it in the chat, but just something to get my attention so I can know that I bring awareness that you would like to speak on one of these questions. So now without further ado, I'll go ahead and ask Blossom to start the space off with the first question. And the question that I have for you, Blossom, is at what point in your life did you decide advocacy is my path?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. It definitely started in college and it led to me on accident. And so, as we know, activism starts because of an injustice of some sort. Um, the injustice for me was I had transitioned in college and I was not able to get into nursing school in Mississippi. That was pretty much unheard of. And so activism kind of led me into the arms of the Human Rights Campaign. The Human Rights Campaign was the first ones to hear my story, and I started volunteering with them, and they really took my story and was able to amplify it. After that, I ended up on Caitlyn Jenner's show. I ended up on Ellen. My story ended up getting international notice. And after that, that's where my activism was born. And being able to work with my trans siblings, especially in the education system, because I experienced a lot of injustice within that, having to be housed with the men, having to be dismissed from certain things. It was a lot of trauma that was on me. And so within that trauma, I found healing and I found my purpose. I found that I have to be a voice. And so as the years have been going on, which is like on year 7 now, I've been able to kind of move myself to this place where I'm able to speak out on the injustices that our transgender, non-conforming, non-binary, and intersex siblings do face, because I think it's really important that we do name our intersex siblings as well too within the trans umbrella. Yeah, and it's quite a journey, but I look at the resiliency of where we are as a community, and I just sit in so much awe because together we have so much power, and that's just kind of like where I land.
Thank you, Blossom, for that. And I see that Anjali has unmuted herself. So Anjali, would you like to go ahead as well and share about this?
Very briefly, it's leaders like Blossom who have inspired me to come out of the darkness. I transitioned 20 years ago, but advocacy to me happened from the forefront about 7 years ago. And I really honor my Black trans revolutionary siblings who have led the path for me. My mentor, Monica Roberts, really taught to me that we all have responsibility, but also privilege, which I hope I hold as well, that made me get on the path of advocacy. And thank you.
Thank you, Anjali. And looks like we can go ahead now this time and go on to our next question that we have. And this question we're going to have for Sarah. And again, if any of the panelists feel the need of actually speaking or sharing, please just nod again for me, and I'll go ahead and look for you to put you in the space. But Sarah, question that we have for you is, how do you take up space in order to uplift other trans folks? And how do you provide space for others too?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I feel that I feel like Blossom would be like the perfect candidate to answer this question, just because, come on, like Blossom, you stormed the stage at a national town hall along with Trans Latina Coalition, who, like, let's be real, like storming that stage. Like, okay, so I'm a board of governor for a human rights campaign, right? And a little bit of storytelling. We were doing like a viewing party of the LGBTQ town hall. The LGBTQ town hall informed on the presidential candidates that were going to be, that are nominated for the presidential campaign. This is at a local, kind of like a food spot, a lot of folks drinking, people like paying some attention to the town hall, but most of all, like just like socializing. And I saw Blossom, and I was just like, what's going on? I look at the screen, and it's just like, there's trans representation. You see flags up, you see Blossom, like really just taking up space. And that's what taking up space is. To me, those moments are very inspiring. So I get inspired by those moments. If you see it like in back of me, I have this this flag right over here. This flag is so war torn throughout the years. It was gifted to me back in December 2018 by a trans woman who was my close friend, and they eventually moved out of the country, but they gifted it to me, and I've had this flag ever since. And for me, taking up space means invading space where trans people aren't necessarily at. So when I first brought this flag out, it was at Trans March San Francisco. It was at Silicon Valley Pride. It was at all sorts of spaces, right? But throughout the years, it's bringing it out to Black Lives Matter rallies, right? It's bringing it out to Stop Asian Hate, because when we look at these social justice movements, we have to be mindful that within Black Lives Matter, within Stop Asian Hate, even with like abortion rights, right? Women's rights, there's this intersectionality of LGBTQ folks that we really have to bring up into the discussion. So in order to make space, we have to ensure that organizers are inclusive of trans people. When we're at the workspace or when we're in community space, a lot of them throw the DEI acronym, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. Dope, love it, right? Like but if you're saying that as your mission statement, then I'm going to hold you very accountable to that. What is DEI? Is it inclusive of all races and ethnicities, or is it also inclusive of all genders, all sexualities? Is it inclusive of everybody and not just people that are of the majority? We have to really think about an intersectional approach in everything that we do. And in order to create space for others, it's really just being that loud voice. It's acknowledging that the root cause when it comes to all these social justice movements, beyond trans, beyond Black Lives Matter, we look at what's going on today in Wisconsin, which breaks my heart, right? We look at everything that's going on, and we have to understand that the root cause is patriarchy, it's white supremacy, it's systemic racism, it's institutional bias. So we have to challenge the system. And it's really, and I say, like when I said divinity at the very beginning, trans folks, especially trans folks of color, Black, brown, indigenous, trans women, they have the answer to change a lot of these systems. But are they acknowledged for the gift they bring, the divinity that they bring? how they're divine, but we don't. And that's what we have to acknowledge.
Sarah, thank you so much for speaking on this, speaking on the importance of intersectionality, and speaking on the part of bringing the different intersections to that space. Thank you for that. Thank you so much, especially in regards of these systems and challenging these systems. I totally agree with you there. So I really thank you for bringing that to our space, bringing that to our community. And I see that Blossom wants to bring something to our space too to add to that. And so we're going to just go right on over to you, Blossom.
Thank you. Oh, Sarah, thank you so much. And Anjali, it's so good to see you and be here in this space with you as well. Going to that CNN town hall thing, Black trans women were being erased. And I sat there and something just came over my spirit. I felt Marsha P. Johnson. I felt our ancestors coming through me to get up and to say something. And, you know, that moment right there helped change the movement in a way too. It shifted the movement. And I just really want to say that taking up space means actually showing up and being unapologetically you. It is okay if you are the only person to jump out of the collective and stand up for something that you believe in, like I did at the CNN town hall. Do not be afraid to be alone and stand up in what you believe in. That is power. That is your superpower. And I think sometimes for us as transgender, non-conforming, non-binary, intersex people, because society tries to look at us as inferior, we have to remember our own strength and our own power and remember that we already have the blueprint instilled in us, whether that's creating your own nonprofit, whether that's creating your own business, whether that's creating your own YouTube channel, your own music. We have some wonderful poets here. We are not a monolith. We're not a monolith. So be able to use your gifts, your talents, and you push through the boundaries and through the obstacles to let the world know that you exist. We all have a journey. We all have a purpose. And I think it's time that we really shape this world by all of us coming together and letting the world know our unique gifts.
Okay then, Blossom, go on and tell us then. That's right. That is right. Bring them gifts, bring them talents, bring those things up, uplift that. That is right. Powerful. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Blossom. Powerful. Powerful. I was ready to keep on hearing that there. Keep it going for us. I was ready. Thank you. We're gonna now go on to our next question. And again, you know, Sarah, Blossom, if you have some knowledge, you need to share that space. Please share that space. Appreciate this. I'm going to now turn it over to Anjali. And the question that I have for you, Anjali, is that how can allies here support you? I wanted to see if you can touch a little bit more on, as you shared, we are history in the making. And if we are history in the making, how can allies here in our community, in the peninsula, in the Bay Area, and now we have Blossom here, so we can just say in California, but how can allies here support?
It's a great question, but I will say that we have remarkable inspirations right here on this panel that can tell us how to be allies. I need to be an ally. And you might have all heard this, but ally is a verb, not a noun. But I also need to be an ally, right, within my community for my Black trans siblings and beyond. That is the essence of allyship. You know, when I lived in the Bay Area 20 years ago, and then I was fired for showing up in a beautiful yellow crop top, which I still have, doesn't fit me, and I had to leave this country and come back, I was in San Mateo County. I was trying to build community, and I did find community, but was there consistency in that? And that is the key to allyship. It is not a dollar and it is not a grant. It is not the role of an employer to give me my trans community a intake coordinator role and be okay that they have done their part of racial and gender justice. It doesn't end there. Allyship is consistency. And right here in the Bay Area, there's a lot of, I don't want to swear, there's a whole lot of opportunity for that consistency to be cycled over and over, because we talk about diversity, but we rarely come through with inclusion. Sarah is a primary example of that. She has done so much for the community and continues to do so, and now is being able to influence public policy, is with a city agency that's able to make a change. But one has to realize that when trans people are in the forefront and leaders, uplifting them, giving them the mic to speak, not speaking in the mic for us. I love my voice, and so do I of each one of my trans siblings. That is what needs to happen. Sarah's voice needs to be uplifted. Blossom's voice needs to be uplifted. It's not someone else, quote unquote, talking for them. The second piece I will say is allyship is to ensure that it is beyond performative action. It is beyond making sure that allyship comes in different forms. I look for allyship in uncharted territories, such as my workplaces, where there's a whole lot of cis, straight, male, white, that are looking at me and wondering if I have the competency. Allyship is being able to speak in those spaces where I cannot walk into, those boardrooms, those decision-making spaces. And ultimately, allyship comes with a silver lining that probably the pandemic gave us, is to transcend boundaries and communities and identities. No longer can we fight for a homogeneous cause to exist in this society as a whole. There are so many spaces where we have to walk in as Asian or South Asian and have to leave our trans identity at the door. And we have to change that. What we do at Parivar have been able to show in a modest, earnest way to the world is to transcend those boundaries. So allyship doesn't just get limited to the San Francisco Bay Area, doesn't get limited to North America, doesn't get limited to the global north. It is everywhere in this world, because the reality of the matter is there are over trigger warning, 54321. There are over 400 trans people who have lost their lives in the last 18 months. And America ranks in the top 5. But guess what? 70% of those deaths are in South America and in South Asia. We have to acknowledge that, and allyship begins with that awareness, true commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali. Thank you for helping our allies out here. Ally is not a noun, ally is a verb, and that needs to be known. Allyship is consistency, and that needs to be known. Thank you for uplifting, and I'm hoping that our allies that are in this space here is taking their notes. Thank you for that. Thank you for that space. That was amazing. That was powerful.
I want to see if I could
Sarah, let's go. I'm ready for you, Sarah.
Okay, so and thank you so much, Anjali. What you said about South Asia also resonated with me as well. I just looked at the numbers for the Philippines in there's 19 reported murders in the Philippines this year, which is an increase of like way too many. 19 trans folks murdered due to anti-trans bias in the Philippines. Last year was 4, the year before was 4. So to me, it's alarming. So it's not something that's just going on in America, Brazil, South Asia, but it's something that's worldwide. And one thing in terms of this question is, how can allies here support you? It's really I think allies need to just support themselves before they could even support me. And the thing is that, to be quite honest, I don't need your support because I am divine. my sisters, my siblings, my brothers, they're divine. And the thing is that I think what allies need to do is really check their own traumas of what masculinity, femininity, androgyny is. Allies, what they need to do is really check, what it means to have attraction to the same sex when they're cisgender, straight identified, right? What do they need to do when someone calls them out, oh, that's gay, or why are you such a girl, or like you are this or you are that? It's if that resonates with you, if you have a reaction to that, you need to check that. Because trans people already checked that. We have, and we're able to exist despite the 47 trans murders that happened this year alone. And the thing is that we have realized who we are. We know what space we can. We know the answers to many of the things that need to be fixed. But again, that for any ally to support me means support yourself first, educate yourself, self-reflect on yourself, take accountability for yourself, take action for everything that, like if you took a misstep, apologize, move on, be accountable. Like if you want to make policy change, if you want to help me, I'll make a policy for you. That's my job. I need you to push it forward and not just rely on me to like continue to advocate for it. I absolutely need you to like put me in this room, give me space. Let me advocate for, like, just give me the platform and I'll do it. But don't put the trauma on me to have to educate you. You could do that on your own. Yeah, and then this is something I'm taking this from the activist Alok. It's trans people are divine. It's something that we have known for years. And I think the allies need to acknowledge that they need to heal from the traumas that they have experienced and come to the knowledge that and the wisdom that like really this whole idea of sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, it's the biases that exist are just made just to oppress us. We have always existed.
Thank you for that share, Sarah. Yes, trans people are divine. We are divine. We exist. Thank you. You don't need that support. Go on. We exist. We know who we are. Go on, then, Sarah. Go on. Blossom, did you want to go ahead and share something as well on this? Go ahead and unmute us, Blossom. We want to hear your words. Unmute so we can hear these words.
Thank you. So sorry. I've been trying to be on my best behavior all evening, but this third question shook it. And then, like, my siblings here have just, I'm excited. Okay. To allies, I need you to first graduate to become accomplices. Number one. All right. I need you to graduate from being an ally to being an accomplice, because anyone can say they're an ally. Accomplice, the only difference between an ally and accomplice is when it comes to accompliceship, when trans people need you, you're always on the front lines. You have something to lose just as much as we do. You're not all the way in the back saying what you will do for us. You're actually showing us and you're actually proving it to us. And the thing is, though, you just show up without us having to be calling you. Being very proactive, not just reactive, number one. Number two, allies. When you do become accomplices, pay trans people for their work, for their labor, and for education. The same way you have to go to school and pay college tuition to learn how to be educated, when you bring trans people onto your platform, you can pay them. P.S. By the way, my PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App are all Blossoms Tell All Tarot, by the way, just saying. Support the work of trans people. Let's just be very clear. Donate to trans-led organizations. I want to be clear why trans-led organizations are created, why trans grassroots organizations are created, because there is no space for trans people. And so we have to create our own spaces. And so any trans person that has their own nonprofit, please support and donate to them, because we're the ones with the real life experience. We're the ones that's on the ground doing the work, right? Support content creators like myself, like really, really show up and hold people accountable for their transphobia when we're not in the room. Let me repeat that again. Hold people accountable for their transphobia when we're not in the room. I just want to make it very, very clear. If you're not doing that, you are contributing to part of the problem. And we're not going to be able to move the needle there. If you have underlying transphobia, it's time for you to check that. It may be intentional, it may be unintentional, and that's fine. Be able to check that. I heard some really important, crucial things within our community about us all being accomplices or allies to each other. And I think that's really, really important within our trans community and within the movement, because if we are not having conversations about white supremacy, homophobia, transphobia, misogynoir, and all of these other issues within our trans community, then what are we really doing? Sometimes I think because of cis privilege and because of cisness and how much more dominant it is, that we as a collective, as a trans community, have to just stick together, and that we can't just talk about these issues because we feel like we're going to give the keys of our freedom to people who may oppress us. And that's not true. I think in order for our movement to build and be stronger, we cannot be afraid to have these conversations amongst each other, which means being able to create more spaces for that. And it would also be beneficial if we create these spaces for our accomplices as well too, so we can have the conversation. But let me be very clear about something, right? Accomplices, allies, when we're done here, you still got to do the work to educate yourselves. The work doesn't stop with us. The education doesn't stop with us. It must continue in your homes, with your family, with your friends. That's really how you can show up for us. True, true, true. Every single day. That's right. Somebody say every single day. I'm here for it.
I'm here for it too, Blossom, every single day. I heard that. Thank you for our panelists for those words. Blossom, tell them they better graduate from ally to accomplices. Y'all better take these notes. We have some amazing, powerful panelists that's giving y'all that knowledge. Take that in. I appreciate all three of you and those words. Believe it or not, we are now coming to our last question. However, I do, again, just like in the question we just had, I would like to hear from all three of you on this question. And so I'll go ahead and read the question. And then I'm going to go ahead and, if it's all right, start with Anjali to get feedback from that. And then we'll go ahead to Sarah and Blossom again. If that order is okay with you all, I'll go ahead and now prepare the last question, which is, what is your hope for the future? Opportunity to share your call to action, basically, and share with us what is your hope for the future, and what your call to action looks like, your resilience looks like. And if you do need me to go ahead and elaborate on that question or read it again, please let me know. Anjali?
I think I understood. Please correct me if I'm going off track. The future is trans. Period. The future is trans. We have always existed, as Sarah said, and we will exist. But it is our time now to be centered. Trigger warning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As part of our work in India, we often come across community that's in crisis. This morning at 3 a.m., I had to handle somebody, I'm not trained, by the way, by any means, of a trans person who is also like my trans nephew, going through some mental crises. And we have to sojourn ourselves to tell ourselves that we are part of that history in that making. This 24-year-old trans man who was once forced into marriage is now trying to transcend and break all those barriers of existence of the gender norms and trying to build a sustainable livelihood. That visioning, that empowerment, if we can see that within our community, then there's no stopping for us. I will also say that the future is amazingly great and hopefully will not have a superlatives of us having the first trans person, the first Black trans person, the first trans person to be in a spaceship, the first trans person to be a CEO of a company. You know, this is way past due. We should be centered everywhere, and the future looks like that. The future looks like for us to inform you while getting compensated, respected, restorative dignity, while making sure that the future for our future trans generations is going to be way better than what we have had to endure. And finally, the future is going to be reflective of the past, so we never repeat the mistakes. And the future needs to be dictated by data, which right now we are not on a good trend on. I'm a numbers person. You know, we are heading into the most deadliest year for trans murders. We are on this premise of Transgender Day of Remembrance, and a future needs to look better, where no more, not one more, not any more of our transgender, non-binary, intersex, hijra folks are just gasping for air. That cannot be our future, because without us, there's no future. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, it's and thank you, Anjali. I'm also as an analyst, I have to be a numbers-driven person because data informs recommendations, which informs policies and programs. But it's also the deadliest year for trans folks in terms of anti-trans legislation, and we have to look across the nation. We just have to travel, like, you know, east to find out that trans folks aren't accepted in a lot of states. Trans folks aren't accepted in the eyes of a lot of laws that are out there, a lot of legislation. There's anti-trans bills, over 150 introduced this year, that attacks trans youth participating in sports. It attracts trans youth looking for gender affirming care. These are all things that are attacking the trans community. And it's something that we need to do better. And my hope for the future is really not to have a TDOR. And the thing is that, like, TDOR, the reason why it exists is, for one, our trans community, we need healing. And obviously we want to ensure that folks are invited to the space. But when you're entering this sacred space, you have to acknowledge that there's a reason why this is happening, and it's going on right now. So my hope is not to have a trans day of remembrance, and it doesn't look like the violence and the brutality against trans bodies is going to stop. But I do, it's as cliche as a Whitney Houston song. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Like, honestly, the youth movement right now really has plenty of the answers. And sometimes we just need to shut the up and listen to the youth. When it comes to pronouns, when it comes to name they go by, when it comes to a lot of the knowledge that when it comes to amplifying what needs to happen, we need to make sure that we make space for this youth movement that's leading the charge. And the thing is that, like, Trans Day of Remembrance, I remember this day being very, very small. Only one event in the South Bay, one event in San Francisco, maybe one in Oakland. Now I look across the board, and there's so many Trans Day of Remembrance events happening all over. And we have to attribute a lot of the social justice movements that are out there, a lot of them youth-led movements. So I applaud the youth, and I'm very hopeful. I think what we need to do as adults, as people of lived experience, as well as, you know, allies, is really make sure that we create that space for the youth to inform what we need to do, allow them the space to inform the work, mentor them, make sure that they get the knowledge needed to be able to lead the future. I believe strongly that trans people will prevail, but how many trans bodies do we have to give up in order to reach that equity, that social justice that includes to prove that we're divine? And we have to continue to fight.
Thank you, Sarah. And Blossom, if you can just share with us, what is your hope for the future?
Yeah, that all trans people are treated with dignity, respect, and treated like human beings first and foremost. The most simple thing is just respect. That trans people's pronouns are respected, that their identity is respected, that the talents, the gifts, the hard work, the labor of all trans folk is amplified, respected. Trans folks are paid what they're worth. I think, you know, the future, honestly, I think trans folks are going to be the most groundbreaking thing around. And I'll just be clear, you know, I study astrology. I don't know if y'all knew this, but the planet Jupiter, what they say in NASA, Jupiter is kind of got the trans colors on it. If you've ever looked at like solar pictures of it, it's so fun. Jupiter is a planet of expansion. And when we talk about the trans community, we can talk about the planet Jupiter and we can talk about Aquarius, which is the zodiac sign, right? Because Aquarius is about collective. It rules the 11th house. It's about moving the community, moving the collective. The planet Jupiter is about expansion. Within our trans community, our identity is so expansive because it's so many unique different identities within our collective. And I think all of those identities should be shown to the world. They should be able to live out loud and proud. And they should be really, really celebrated. We shouldn't just have Trans Day of Visibility and Trans Day of Remembrance, life and death. We need more in between. We need more spaces for trans people. We need more celebration for trans people. We need much more. And honestly, it takes accomplices here because I want to be very clear. You have a cis privilege I don't get to have as a trans person. You have a cis privilege I don't get to have. You get to navigate differently in this world. And if you are a white person in this room right now, your white tears can mean death to my Black trans body. We just saw this today. We just witnessed this today. I envision a place where trans people are just accepted and they just want to be respected. That trans youth can go in the bathroom and feel safe without harassment from adults, without trans youth being bullied by adults. That's what I'm really envisioning. Will I think it's gonna happen? Absolutely. I am someone who is very ambitious, Capricorn rising, of course, but I'm very ambitious. And I think with enough drive, with all of us being able to build our resources and bring them together, we can make that change so much. We have so much work, good work that's happening right here on this panel. And I think it's important, again, to support that work, to uplift that work, and to listen to trans folk. Listen to us is what I'm envisioning.
I would like to thank our panelists for these powerful, powerful words. I would like to thank you for joining us in our space here. I would like to thank you for making this a part of your space and being in community with us. Your message, your words, the power that you brought, very uplifting, very empowering. And I am honored to be able to moderate this space and to just have this shared with our community. So Anjali, Sarah, Blossom, thank you to my trans siblings here. And definitely look forward to more engagement with you all and connecting with you all. Thank you again. I do want to respect the timing that we have here, and I just want to do a time keep with our audience that we have, just to let you know that it's 6:31 on my end. We still have another piece in which we will have our community members that are going to be sharing some things. And so we may take a little bit more of our time. If you do, by any chance, have to leave the space, totally understanding of that. We are being respectful of your time. But if you do have another 10, 15 minutes that you can stay in the space, I'm sure the community members that are presenting poetry selections would love to have you there. We'll appreciate that. So without further ado, due to our timing, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to transition this space over to our San Mateo County Poet Laureate, Eileen Castaneda, as she prepares for our community poetry selections. Eileen, thank you.
Thank you, Dana. It's an honor to introduce offerings from community members and allies in memory of those we lost, as well as a reminder to keep holding space for grief and empowerment, especially for members of the transgender community. First, I would like to call back our amazing panelist, Anjali Rumi, to share a poem. Anjali?
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you for the space again. The poem's title, All the Garden's Flowers. To be a weed among flowers, they viewed me as an eyesore. They viewed me as a nuisance. They view me and say I'm a danger to the surrounding flowers. People forget that weeds are plants too, struggling to grow, struggling to survive, struggling to thrive. In a world that says you're unwanted, just as there will be always flowers, there will always be weeds. I am that beautiful weed among flowers. I'm persistent. Go ahead, try to pull me out. I will keep coming back. My roots are solid and my soul is clear. Go ahead, try to stomp me down. I will return stronger. My resilience is boundaryless. I will not die easily. Why? Why don't you see? We, the weeds, are flowers too. And you, the flowers, are weeds too. And sometimes even you notice that. You only refuse to acknowledge that we are all the garden's flowers. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali. That is so powerful and so moving. Thank you so much. Next, please welcome Reverend Ben Myers, pronouns he, him, minister at the Unitarian Universalists of San Mateo, who will offer a prayer.
Thank you so much. And what an honor it is for me to be here. I am a proud parent and of a beautiful son who is living his truth up in Portland, and I cannot wait to see him again next week for the holiday. May all travel safely in the upcoming holiday and the holidays, and let us keep one another safe. It is an honor to be able to share the spirit of prayer with you all in this space. And I invite you, in whatever tradition, whatever practice is yours, to bring that spirit forward in this, as I share these words of grace on this day. Please join me in the spirit of prayer. On this Transgender Day of Remembrance and Resilience, we remember those who have been murdered for being who they are, those who face violence on a daily basis, those who have lost loved ones, and those who worry for loved ones. May we come to a time when we cease to shame children around gender roles and expression, where we allow for freedom and exploration of identity and expression, and to a world that operates from love, especially when things are difficult and confusing. Let us love. May all of us who live with the threat of violence find support, strength, community, hope, and safety from violence. And by example, go forward with resilient love, deep appreciation, and full acceptance for all of God's precious children. In this spirit, may we continue. In this dream, may we awake. In this truth, may we live. Go in peace, live in grace, return again and again in love. Ashe, namaste, may it be so. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Ben. Finally, I would like to share a video by the LGBTQ youth space, whose members include LGBTQ, questioning, and ally youth and young adults ages 13 to 25 living in Santa Clara County. This mini documentary was compiled by Juju Gaita. Tanya.
Trans violence is a world where hate crimes towards trans people don't exist. We will be able to use whatever restroom or changing room we want without judgment or stares. We wouldn't be punished by angry cis people realizing their helpless attraction to us. Police bullets would no longer tear holes through our bodies, especially towards people deemed criminal because of their darker skin tone. It can be as simple as me being able to go to the grocery market dressed in a skirt, makeup, gym shorts, jerseys, etc. And no one would stare and I would feel like I'm flying. Sharing pronouns and respecting them to the best of their abilities is ordinary, and coming out isn't needed, just as cis people don't need to announce their gender assigned at birth matches who they are. Communities of love and resilience would form between everyone, and transphobic remarks, actions, or harassment are a thing of the past. Saying you're trans is as ordinary as saying you're a Virgo. You can be without fear of losing a home, losing your family and friends, and losing your job, or losing respect. We could be unapologetically ourselves without fear of judgment or violence. I hope and know that that day is coming soon. Every day we are pushing it closer and closer, and I can taste the victory of the next day on my lips and parched throat, refreshing and promising and beautiful. And so I look to the sun and walk towards it. Trans people are not a thing of the past. We're the future.
So envisioning a world without trans violence or violence against trans folks is important to our survival. We can't only live in this reality where we are continually misgendered, rejected. We also need to be envisioning the world that values and appreciates and celebrates our expression, our existence, our resistance. And I think that world that we envision is a world that we are creating in our relationships, in our outfits, in our day-to-day life. And I really appreciate chances to get to connect with other trans folks so that we can co-create that world that is attuned to our more full selves and highest selves, that also accepts other people wherever they are in their trans journey.
Yeah, I think a world without trans violence would be a world where people could express their gender identity without having to fear their safety or their quality of life or their future.
I think a world without trans violence would be incredible. Yeah, you could just be yourself without anyone harassing you or bothering you. I think then like people, even like cis people, would feel more free to like explore who they actually are.
If there was a world with no trans violence, everybody would be accepted, and I would be able to go into a men's restroom.
I think like if trans people were accepted, I would have like known sooner that I was trans, and you know, I wouldn't have been so afraid. I like wouldn't have had to like make up a backup plan if they didn't accept me and things like that. I don't think I would even have to like tell other people I was trans or come out to people, because like at that point you don't have to like do that, like how cis people aren't really expected to do it either.
Being transgender or trans to me means not having to exist in a cage or a box. And one of the greatest Indigenous feminists I've ever spoken to clarified for me, we're not fighting for, feminism isn't fighting for equality of the cages. It's not this cage where men are held and that cage where women are held and another cage where deviants are held. We don't want equality of the cages. We want no more cages. So being trans to me means being free in my body to express how I want and to follow where my heart and spirit flows without having to expect a rigid wall or violence if I deviate from that. So to me, being trans means being free.
It also means that like I'm able to be who I am. And even though I don't feel like I'm in the right body, I'm on the track to getting the right body.
Being transgender to me, I think it's like being trans itself. I think it's really incredible. But to me overall, I'm like happy to be trans. You know, it like I wouldn't wish to be born a boy. It's just part of me, and I think it's wonderful.
I will now pass on the mic to Dana.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you to the wonderful community that shared the selections. It's amazing. And thank you to our community that we have still here in the space. We're now going to begin to end our program. I want to again share my thanks and appreciation to our panelists, to our poets, to the community selections, to our community partners that work together to bring this to you. And thank you to our community here, as well as our viewers we may have on YouTube. Appreciate you being here, and please make sure you get the correct self-care that you may need. Make sure that you reach out to the support that you may need. If you want to become more involved with transgender issues and or with the LGBTQIA+ communities in San Mateo County, please visit the San Mateo County Pride Center, San Mateo County Pride Initiative, or LGBTQ Commission of the County of San Mateo. As you're looking in the chats right now, the websites and the panhandles of where you can find these spaces is being provided now. Again, thank you. I thank you for being here. Please make sure that self-care is number one for you. And remember, Black and brown transgender lives matter. Learn more, talk more, and do more. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you.